Broto conference. Yay! Thank you for taking a leap of faith with this nascent project. My name is Ian Edwards. I'm the founding director of Broto Art, Science, and Collaboration. We're a project 2.5 years in the making, and this is our official launch, so thank you for joining us. Let's set one thing straight off the top. I am neither an artist nor a scientist. So let's get some declarations aside. I am an interested third party, and that third party idea is something we're going to explore in much more detail tomorrow in our workshops. By background, I am a journalist and a sustainability consultant, and I come to this event, we're standing right here with by listening to my instincts and having an intense desire to help us maximize our collective efforts to address something as vast and global and urgent as climate change. So, and I also want to make certain with you that this is not about making better art or better science. This is, I'm convinced that we need to fix climate change. It should have been done decades ago. What I would like to see is a better mainstream urgency and a better uptake within the mainstream. And I think that making big what art and science already see so clearly is what we're trying to do here. So Broto is a project that seeks to knit together, so think about this, knit together science and art in a way that fosters a substantive, mutual, credible, and real-time collaboration, both here in the real world and through our online channels. We're directing those efforts at projects that tackle aspects of climate change. So an example, a formative conversation I had with one of our panelists a couple of years ago provides really the pivot for what all of this moves on. He's a NASA climatologist. That's Josh Willis. He's going to be on our panel tomorrow via Skype across time zones from California. And at the time, he was looking at glaciers in Greenland. And he brought with him a photographer, an art photographer, into the field. And Josh was looking at something very specific. He was looking at the line where the glaciers and the water were meeting. It's a scientific thing. He brought the photographer in part to sort of give some more information around this little piece of information and to offer some perspectives from the art side. So this is an example of where the scientist was using art to expand his thinking and gave art a respected place in the process of making science. So a key priority here is how do we use art and science together more effectively to think about these challenges differently. Another story that I wanted to offer up is about blended ideas. So a number of people have asked us about the name Broto, where it comes from. This is a brand that's based in both a sense of place and a sense of potential. So, two ideas in one idea, a synthesis. So as many as you know, Provincetown is steeped in 400 years of colonial history, much of it as a once vital fishing village that has been slowly undermined by climate change, changing ocean acidification, the negative impacts of human enterprise like overfishing. So Broto is a word from Portuguese meaning sprout, or as a seedling emerging from a seed. So Broto, there we go. Broto can reflect a community and a global challenge in something with the potential for new life. So something else we should set straight. Yes, art and science collaborate. Leonardo is a publication celebrating 50 years this year as a platform for exploring art and science. Some of our people are here. We're honored to have Cynthia Panucci here. Thank you, Cynthia. A progenitor of this space with the Art and Science Collaborations Inc. celebrating 30 years this year. So collaboration happens. But much of it is the real effort is in the idea of innovating consumer-minded technology like your smartphone. And while I'm happy to be proven wrong about this, most so-called art and science collaboration in the environment are really not so collaborative. So they're often more sequential downloads of data from scientist-artists. And instead of a process where one partner's process informs another. So I am looking for more two-way communication, more hybridized process, more shared intention, more co-creation, and I wonder what that might innovate. So if we have one goal this weekend, it's to begin that conversation. It's not should art and science join forces on climate change, but it's how. So a friend gave me this, a quote by a late Canadian theologian, and while I was described at my own wedding as the non-religious Canadian, I thought that this had some resonance. So he said the dialogue is not understood as a way of sharing truth that one or both parties already have. Rather, it's a way of knowing truth that neither party possesses prior to the dialogue. So he was talking about interfaith communication and reaching across to gain new insights. And I thought that art and science independently spend a lot of time talking about truth. So I thought that this was resonant. And this is something from just last month. It's from Ellis, one of our panelists this weekend. He's leading a team. He led a team of authors looking at a survey of art and science work. And they concluded that collaborations between art and science can be much more than just good science communication. These partnerships may also change and enrich the way we do both science and art. So there may be some romantic notions that art and science are not so dissimilar. We did a research project in February where we distributed cloned surveys to artists and scientists separately, essentially asking, why do you do what you do? And the goal was to see what kind of degree of overlap. So here's a few tidbits. So in a question about why they do what they do, 50% of scientists say to discover something new. 50% of artists say to discover something new. Yes?
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yes?
Before you get into the results, what was your data set? How many artists, how many scientists from where?
Excellent. Get into the methodology right away. These were 100 professional scientists and 100 professional artists.
How about demographics?
They're oldsters. 54 years old for artists and 60 years old for scientists. Scientists skewed mostly to men, about 70% men, and the women and men were equal in artists. I have a little demographic coming up in a second, which will probably tell you more. Nothing like scooping me, but yes. So other big in this, so they were all given the same drivers and same definitions to try and rank what was their most important reason to do what they do. Other ones were to be creative and to fulfill a calling. Where they were mismatched, I think scientists are more interested in educating people than artists are. When asked about the most important roles in society, can you read that? So 50% of scientists, actually more like 80% of scientists, were looking at contributing to knowledge in society, while 50% of artists want to contribute to culture in society. I thought that was a nice pairing. Least important roles, you'll be happy to know, are chasing fame, money, and prizes. Those were on the list. And I thought this was interesting. I asked for artists and scientists who had previous collaboration experience. They both thought their collaborating partner got the better deal. And I asked a question about what would make them likely to do a future collaboration. So what was also interesting is that these are independently done lists. And they both ranked the top three as this: scope of work, chemistry, and communication. So, you're seeing a lot of overlap in how they want to work, or why they work, or how they do their work. So what was interesting from this is that outcomes or results were considered less important, which is kind of a good thing, I think, because we're talking about process versus outcomes. And funding for the project was understandably more important for the artist than the scientist. Now, I say more importantly because of this, which is to say, our average income for a scientist is $102,000 a year, and notably 30% more paid to men than women. Our artists made $21,000. And that's split very 50-50. So did I get all the demographics? And last finding on this, what I thought was very interesting. Our most negative result was asking about mainstream audiences. Both scientists and artists are extremely frustrated, pessimistic about mainstream audiences, understanding, in fact, disagreed with the statement, do they understand science and do they understand climate change? No, they don't. So you can get more of this on our website. We have it all at Broto.eco. Broto.eco. So I have some thank yous. The thank yous. So a special thank you to our sponsors for whom this would, without whom this would not have happened. The Pallet Fund in particular is a staunch supporter and provided the singular support that made this happen. Ellen Larson at the Cape Cod Center for Sustainability has been a steadfast champion. We have local support from the Provincetown Economic Development Committee, Cape Cod Foundation, Provincetown and Truro Cultural Councils, Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. We're still looking for money. So this is an ongoing thing. This is my new lesson on nonprofits. Of course, the Provincetown Art Association and Museum and the Center for Coastal Studies have inspired this project. It was so a special debt of gratitude to Rich back there and his team at Coastal Studies, including Catherine McCord and Chris McCarthy and her team at PAM, including Leslie. Is she here? Leslie Marchish, who have been helping to foster this project since the earliest days. And it was in conversation with Rich in 2015, I hope you remember that, just after he returned from the Paris Accord about greenhouse gases, that inspired this project, really designed to help build on the long-lasting and deep roots of science and art in the Cape Cod region. A special shout out to Matt Clark, doing filming for our beautiful website, and York Dressler for his art and sensibilities. Yay, York, thank you so much for being 200% supportive in this and pulling this off. I think Mark Adams deserves a special thank you for being there in the early days. And if there's one person who's seen the ins and outs of this, it's Jay, my husband Jay. I point him out not to say thanks and make him bashful, but to tell him he's set up to take your checks if you're feeling generous. And a special thanks to Pilgrim House and David Burbank for making this great, and to our volunteers who are helping move this along. And we'll be much shorter. Oops. Technology. There we go. The program, we've nicknamed this Proto Broto or Baby Broto or Tasting Menu Broto, and wanted to make clear that this is a brisk, high-level program Saturday and Sunday. We've designed it to take guests through a journey that begins to explore a potential art science framework. It begins in this room tomorrow, 8:45. And I won't get into the weeds of the framework, but from people who should know, they say it's innovative and important, necessary work. So I'll let you form your own opinion. But to manage expectations, we're just starting a conversation here. We're setting some high marks. We're setting a path. We're trying to look at depth that's going to be developing over the next few years as we develop this community and the tools and the framework. So expect a brisk and brainy program. We have an amazing roster of speakers, and from both here in the Cape and from afar, people who work at the intersection of art and science and sustainability and collaboration. And I'm very grateful that they saw value in this project and in bringing their expansive ideas to share with us. We'll start tomorrow with an idea that science is already benefiting from art. We'll look at issues of sustainability that art and science in partnership can begin to address. We'll debate whether and how science can work together. And as a prize, we'll begin to imagine a world already being sustainable. And there's more. Gee whiz. This works so well in rehearsal. I'm gonna get tired of that slide. There we go. A companion program to this is Roast, and there's a backstory to this which I can share with you over another martini. It's going to be Can Climate Change Be Funny? And we have a top-notch roster of players from Boston and Provincetown going to be doing comedy improv on this subject, and if you haven't got your ticket already, they're only $15. And Sunday morning features the collaborators behind Hemlock Hospice, and the whole thing wraps up with an art science encounter session on Sunday called Worlds Collide.